So a lot of folks been asking about the vacation Ash and I took. We went up to Whitehorse. It was really extraordinary. Everything went off just the way we imagined. The flights, we stayed in a cabin in the woods. There was a hot springs within a 3-minute walk of where we were staying. It was gorgeous. Everywhere we went was gorgeous, and it was so relaxing and restorative. Exactly what we needed. So it gave me a lot of time to simply ponder, to simply sit in what it was that was new, that needed to arise in me, in consciousness, that then I could come share with you. And one of the things I did was bring a couple of books with me. And one of them was Sid Arthur, which I read for the 4th time. And every time I read this book, something new arises. And when the first couple of times, I thought, wow, I just missed that. But now, this time, as I'm reading, I'm seeing it with new eyes. These aren't the same eyes. This isn't the same mind. This isn't the same body that read it the last time. Something new has arisen here in me, and so I'm reading this and finding something new in it. And in doing that, it came to me. It came to me how, of course, that's our process. I mean, I don't even see things the same way I saw them 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I made a presentation to other ministers on what it takes to grow a center. And this morning, I was telling Ash, if I had it to do now, which at some point I'm sure I will, it would be a completely different presentation. It wouldn't be the same at all. In fact, what I presented last time would be like down the list of what I see now it takes to grow our lives, not just to grow this center, but to grow our lives, because what I notice is my life grows right along with my consciousness, that they're in line with each other. They have to be, right? One of our tenets is what you embody manifests. And so what I'm noticing is how I continue to open and embody something new, something I had not seen before. I speak to people sometimes who have been in this teaching a long time, who I've known a long time, and sometimes their consciousness is what they're sharing, how they're experiencing life hasn't budged, is not different. And then I speak to others who are experiencing the same thing I am, that the more we go along in this teaching, the more we open our consciousness, the more we awaken, the more our life just continues to shift. Just continues. And so this week, as I'm pondering, one of the things that I have been thinking about a lot for the past 2 years was when someone said to me that I teach old person spirituality. And I thought about that am I teaching this because I have more time to sit around and meditate? Young people don't. They're too busy getting jobs and working and raising kids. I did all that already. So now I get to sit back and, meditate more. And so was it true that how I'm presenting all this is from this old person perspective? And in some ways, it is, because I'm an old person, right? I'm turning 70 this year, so of course it's an old person perspective. But on the other hand, as I was looking at the different phases, we speak a lot here around, what we embody manifests, right? That's the big thing. And it's true. It doesn't matter what age you are, it's true. But when we're younger, we don't have a lot of time sometimes to look at what we've embodied, how that is dealing with ourselves on the inside. And so as I was pondering that this week, it really came to me that there are these different phases of life, right? When you're in your 20s and 30s, you're supposed to yearn. That's your job, is to yearn on what to create in the world, what you're going to bring, what you're going to express, how it's going to look, your dreams, your visions that you grew up with. That's really important. That's an important part of life. You don't want to skip over that. I didn't. I took all that in that I learned from that, and it made me who I am today as I look back on that. So it's important. And then you get into your 40s and 50s and you start to integrate. You start thinking, okay, I've done some things in life. What a meaning am I making of this? How am I looking at this in terms of the whole of my life? And you start thinking about things in that perspective. And then you get into your 60s and 70s thinking, like a friend of mine said after I turned 50, he said, "You're on the back nine now." Well, once you're getting closer to 70, you really start feeling that, right? And so it brings up other ideas and other perspectives in terms of how am I going to spend the rest of my days? How do I really want to spend the rest of my days? Because I have no clue how many they're going to be. Now, you don't think about that when you're in your 20s. You're thinking about getting started, right? So what's the thread that ties it all together? That's what I've been thinking about, because there must be, since spirituality is spirituality and it's all oneness, right? So there is a thread, but where is it, since what is motivating us is so different at the different phases? What is that thread? And it was in the Siddhartha book, and it's been what I've been talking about all along. He said that inner voice. He said the key to anywhere you are in life is following that inner voice, what I'm calling soul's intention, what some call intuition, what others may call higher self. It doesn't matter, but we all have it, and we have it from the day we're born. But what happens is if we get caught up in all the yearning and all the drama and everything that's going on around us, we can easily get distracted, and then before we know it, we're saying things like, "I don't trust my intuition," because it's not always right. And really what it is you've forgotten which voice that is, right? You forget that there is this voice in you that already knows your highest and best, and is doing its best to guide you every step of the way, except we lose it. And so when I was talking to Norm the other day, and we were both saying, what happens a lot of times when we lose it is that it goes on and creates anyway something that is large enough for us to go, whoa, we better listen. Kind of like being on my deathbed being told this was my last day here. If you don't listen, life's going to give you what you need to get you on track. But then if you continue to still not listen, then all you do is get into the woe is me stuff. How hard is my life? My life is so hard. I've done it. When I'm at 12 and 14 and having ulcerative colitis and dealing with all this disease and going in and out of the hospitals, I was in a very woe is me state. Did it help? Did it change anything? No. I look back at all that now and I go, man, if I really knew then what I know now, and we say that a lot, right? I'm sure everybody says that, but you have the ability to, through this teaching, this is why we offer these classes. We offer these classes because we have found, those of us who have been through it, that we can learn how to get closer to that voice, how to recognize it more often, how to allow it to lead instead of our ego. And the funniest part about it that I've learned around that voice is a lot of times it tells me what my next step is, and my ego mind doesn't like it. My ego mind's going, no, I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound fun at all. And in the early days, I went with what I liked. And so I wouldn't listen. And so things got hard and harder and harder. And I actually got further and further and further away until when I'm in my 40s, once again, I'm on my deathbed. Their doctor's telling me, you got 5 days or less to live. You better get your affairs in order. You can get pretty far away from yourself if you are stuck in you having to like the path you're on. You thinking that this is about, bliss and wonder. I mean, it is, really. But I mean, not on the everyday. On the everyday, it's about what awe and bliss we express into it. 2 weeks ago, I told you guys that I had spoken on that old Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And I had said to you that I thought they were off. That I think it's simply the practice of chop wood, carry water is the spiritual practice that we bring enlightenment to. That's the realization I had. So now I'm sitting there reading the other book I bought with me, which is The Snow Leopard, which Anne was kind enough to gift to me. So I bring it on this trip, and I'm looking at it, and in the book, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, on this page, it says, I'll get this in a second. How wondrous, how mysterious, I chop wood and carry water. And I was like, whoa, that's really different. Where did that come from? So I Googled it, and I found out that that is the original quote. That it was hundreds of years later that somebody interpreted that quote as meaning before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. That's the interpretation of the original quote done by a Zen master back in the 8th century who just saw it all in the chopping and the carrying. And I was like, whoa, how synchronistic that I would think that, and then there it is, that it would come to me, and then there it is. And that's what happens when you follow that voice within you. Those kinds of synchronicities are right before you all the time. Now, that one was really fun, right? I got to see that, and I got to feel it, and I got to be in that. Sometimes those kinds of synchronicities, when you live this close to how things are going, show up in ways that might make you eat crow. I'll give you an example. About a month and a half, 2 months ago, there was an article in the Science of Mind magazine that I thought was very off base of our teaching. And then I looked into some other articles that were in there, and I decided as your spiritual leader to cancel the subscription to Science of Mind. And to set up in the back a way for anybody who still wanted to get it, they could get it themselves. Right? And I was very adamant about this. I got a lot of flack about it, but as a spiritual leader, it's my call, and I said, we're canceling that subscription, and we did. Well, last Wednesday, I got a call from somebody writing for Science of Mind magazine to interview me for the magazine. Sometimes how it comes back at you, it's really hard to miss. So we'll be getting the subscription again. I'll be in the January issue. I don't think that would have happened if I wasn't so in touch with that voice inside me that's guiding me, that's letting me know this is how your life is unfolding, this is how you need to play, and to learn from that, oh, maybe I moved a little quickly on that one, maybe I let my ego get in the way, maybe I reacted instead of sitting back and being quieter, right? I got to have that lesson. I got to eat a lot of crow, but I got to have that lesson. Right? And so that's what's possible. I mean, I know that doesn't sound great, like when I say that's what's possible, but I'm talking about the synchronicity of it all. I find my life very synchronistic. Another thing I find about my life is how often now I hear myself, and I feel myself feeling the place where this moment is perfect. I am having so many perfect moments. Just had one playing True Colors. I'm up there and I'm hearing the different instruments that are going on around, and I'm going, oh my God, we're playing this perfectly. Now, does that mean that every note was exact and right? You know, I find for myself that perfect is very subjective and not objective. It's how you get to experience that moment. And if you miss it, well, then you've missed it, right? But then you get another shot. And so what I'm noticing is just how often these days I take the first sip of tea in the morning and I think, and I feel, wow, that was perfect. You know, Ash and I will kiss and I'll go, oh, that's perfect. Right? But I take the time to notice because it's beautiful. You want more awe in your life? Take in now when a moment's not perfect. I'm not lying about it. But that isn't the point. The point is we have way more perfect moments than we realize. We're just still maybe caught up in the last one that wasn't. Right? And when you get caught in the spot of this is the one that wasn't, you miss the one that is because they're right in there. They're going back and forth all the time, right? Life's in constant motion. It's all moving. It's all moving. It's all doing this incredible dance right in front of us, right? And so there's always more going on. Another revelation I had this week, I know this is going to sound obvious, is that we don't have eyes in the back of our heads. And yet, for some reason, we think what's going on in front of us is all there is. Because that's what we're reacting to. Instead of remembering, wait, there's all this I haven't seen. There's all this more going on all the time. And there was this great line in the Snow Leopard that I read this week that said that let me backtrack a little bit there. Rumi has a line that says, we are not drops in the ocean. We are the entire ocean in a drop. Well, if you believe that, then what is not in you? If you see evil in the world, what is not in you? If you see wonder in the world, what is not in you? And so it's all going on. And so one of the things I've been thinking about this week is that's great to think this idealistic way, but how do I apply that? How am I in that? How do I bring that forth in a way that makes sense to my life? And then what I notice is simply by holding that principle, that I am the entire ocean in a drop, it shifts it, maybe not a lot. Right? I've told you all along that I don't avoid the news. I read the news every day. I pray over the news every single day because I feel that's my job. I'm not telling you it's yours, but I am saying that when we move into a place of not being in denial, allowing our container to grow in terms of consciousness, starting to see the periphery, seeing more that's going on around us all the time, or as much of the time as we can, because God knows I don't do it all the time. I get caught up like everybody else, but I notice when I'm caught up, and then I'm able to go, oh, I'm caught up. Let's remember, if I'm the entire ocean in a drop, then all this is in that. Everything going on in the world, everything going on in my life, it all exists in this moment right with me. So what is the dominant place I'm looking? Because it's never the only place. It's only the dominant place. If you're having a feeling about something, good, bad, ugly, whatever, that's simply the dominant feeling in that moment. It's not the only one because they all exist in the same moment. Everything exists in the same moment. This is where picking and choosing comes in. What have we picked and chosen in that moment? Because it can look like the most horrific thing in the world, but at that same moment, there must be also wondrous things going on in the world because it all is happening at once. Where's your focus? So I focus on the news, but then while doing so, I go, this means there's some other perfection here. This means there's something else going on in the world that must be wondrous. It must be the case. It has to be in this moment because everything is. And by doing that, what I've noticed for myself is I start to feel more perfection. I am experiencing more perfection. And it just feels so, And so one of the things about this, Ash is studying some new stuff she's going to be bringing probably in about a year from now that's really quite something. And she said that one of her teachers had said that one of the issues that goes on is we idolize bliss. And I think that was true for me personally. I think that's one of the things that many years ago when I was taking a lot of psychedelics and trying a way different route than I'm on now, I idolized that sense of bliss and wanted it so bad that it actually destroyed my self-esteem because I couldn't understand why I couldn't be there. That idolizing always is destructive. Anything we idolize, we are actually destroying. I mean, that was new for me this week, to see it that way. And thank you, Ash, for bringing that forward to me so that I could take a look at that, so that I could spend some time with that and see the destructive nature of idolization. And so when we are doing these teachings, when we are practicing, when we are in this path, it is really important that what we don't do is idolize it, is think that somehow we're going to be able to squeeze out the bad and just hold on to the good. Like bliss is all there is. Because that's not how it works. What I notice is my peace and my perfection come in, the more I feel, not just see, but feel the all of it. That it's all happening in the same moment. And that I am a choice as to what I want to focus on in this moment. And sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Sometimes my emotions are running awry, doing their own thing, like a wild stallion, just going through the field. Ask my wife. Sometimes it feels that way to her too, I'm sure. But it's my job to reel it in and to go, whoa, wait a second, or let that go and still focus elsewhere. I've done both. But in each one, I have the awareness, this is what I'm doing, right? And so that's how, when we talk here about everything being one, it's practical, it's useful, because ultimately, if you can really focus on, it will open you up to some things you didn't see before. Because if there's really everything going on at once, I guarantee you, for the rest of your days, there'll be something you didn't see before. That it just keeps unfolding that way. That we get to keep seeing more. That's what I talk about when I'm talking about the adventure of life, is that we constantly have the ability, the power, the presence to see something, to experience something in something that may look exactly the same, but we can experience it differently. Because there is that more going on in that moment. In that moment. And that's what I know for all of us. And that's why we teach these classes. And that's why I know that we get to grow as a community and actually have impact on the world, because this must be true, that we get to choose. You get to choose. We all get to choose. Thank you. I love you.